Hey guys, this is kfactor 39. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how I make my ghillie suits that you've seen in I Like Airsoft's Find the Sniper, and to a couple of my teammates that are asking me how a homemade ghillie suit is made. I've done some research online as well as talked to a couple Marine Corps snipers, and they shared their knowledge with me and what I've gained online. I was able to come up with a ghillie suit that works for me and seems to be very effective while airsofting. So please enjoy the video. Leave any comments below if you guys have any questions, and I'll be happy to answer them the best I can. Just a quick little layout of what my ghillie suit is. Let's take a look here. You got your standard woodland BDU pants that I've rigged some strips of woodland onto the pants as well. This is just the starters. I'm not anywhere close to being done with these pants. And then you move up to here. This is my top half of my BDU woodland. I'll explain to you what this material is that I've got zip tied onto the back and sewed. And then you got your standard, netting with the more of a tan style with the burlap strips there. And then you got your green foresty netting. Don't have any burlap on that yet. And then you have your burlap strips that I used to tie on a little bit here. And then you got the hat that I'm going to be using, that I'm going to attach some netting, and I'll go over that with you guys. Okay, so we're going to start with the pants here. I found that with the pants, natural foliage is a little bit more difficult, especially if you're low crawling around. The natural vegetation seems to fall off a lot and you can lose your cover. So what I've done is I prefer to have more burlap on my legs and my lower back area. It seems to stay better and to cover and do a good enough job that people can't see you. So let's look at what I've done here. What I've done is I've cut a hole in the woodland pant area, make one small hole on this one side with a pair of scissors, and then you're going to do the same with the other side. And then you're just going to loop it through the two holes that you've made and tie it off. You can do shoe goo or sewing or attach it to netting. This is just something that I found was easier and quicker to do. And I just wear a thin, Under Armour underneath these pants to keep me from getting poked by sticks and things like that. So, moving on to the jacket. The jacket is a really key component to your ghillie suit. It's what's going to be most exposed from your shooting perspective. And what I mean by shooting perspective, imagine yourself as the enemy player looking at you. What are they going to see first? They're going to see your shoulders, your head, and the top of your torso, and probably the small of your back is going to be the most exposed, especially when you're leaning up on your rifle to take shots and so on and so forth. So what I've done is attached the camouflage netting, kind of like a crochet. Have to give a shout out to my mom for making this for me. She just made a square patch, so thanks, Mom. She made this square patch for me out of this camo netting, real strong stuff. You can get at your local retailer. Netting works just as good as well, but I kind of like this because it has a tendency to kind of look like moss or more naturistic, and it seems to hold up a little bit better than netting. So what I've done too is just made small incisions. If you could see, kind of like this, you'll see one hole there and another hole there. And I've run zip ties all the way through, and I've also sewed a couple and also done some shoe glue, which works really good. And then if you lift up the back portion, that's just the BDU that you would see underneath, and that's just the netting right there. Then what I do, I don't have any natural vegetation with me at the moment, but you can weave the natural vegetation in and out of this material, and then zip tie it at the base where the roots would be, and you just cut off the tip of the zip tie, and then that's your natural foliage. Remember, when you are doing the natural foliage, to take your time and to not grab all the foliage from one area. If you grab the foliage all from one area, it can give you away more easier than if you would if you grabbed it from here and there. Oftentimes when I go to the field to make these ghillie suits, I wander off in different variations at different places. Obviously you want the same green texture, yellow, it just depends on what field you're playing at. But make sure you mix it up. Nature doesn't really have a pattern, and neither should you. The arm portion of the jacket is really a key component. I've seen a lot of store-bought ghillie suits. They just don't cut it. They fall apart and they don't have the right material in the right spots. So what I recommend is that you put on your jacket before you even cut it up, and lay down on the ground like you would in your shooting position with your rifle. And then when you're in that shooting position, take a black Sharpie or a bright color, whatever it might be, because you could fade it out or darken it again, and put a little X where your arms and the creaks of your arms are when you're shooting, kind of like in your elbows and so on and so forth. And what that does is it shows you where you need your coverage the most. So I've marked on my jacket, I'll show you here. I've marked on my jacket, there's a mark by a Sharpie that I used, or a marker to mark where my burlap is. So I'll cut an incision like I did here, one hole there, and I'll tie the burlap off like I've done here. You can buy burlap strip sets from a local retailer, an Army Navy, something like that, and just strip them, and then you can have that natural look to it. I don't like to use natural foliage on my arms as well, because they tend to just fall off way too easy, and it's kind of a waste of your time. If you can manage to get the foliage on there, it can also interfere with how you shoot. So it just depends on your preference. This is just what works for me. And then again, I've weaved these burlap strips through those holes that I made and tied them off, and then kind of sporadic them. It's not done by any means, but this is where the coverage in my arm needs to be while I'm shooting. Now we're going to talk about the little boonie hat that we're going to be using. This is a really key component to the ghillie suit. To me, the most important is distinguishing and getting rid of your head outline. Human head's a really noticeable target, and the last thing you want to do is have a dome shape or something really obvious where the person can tell it's you. And that's why I used to have a hood. Hoods are really good, but they can also tint and make like a triangle shape, which could give you away, and we don't want that. So a buddy of mine told me to try out a boonie hat, so I have an old boonie hat here. And what I'm going to do is use this green mesh netting that I received. Thank you, John, by the way. I'm going to drape it over the hat like so, kind of get a coverage, and then I'm going to sew it on, or once again you can zip tie it. Zip ties are your best friend in my opinion when it comes to your ghillie suit. They're strong. You can buy a lot of them for really, really cheap. They hold the foliage on and they hold the netting on. Glue's a painstaking task, and it just doesn't seem to hold up. I had a zip tie ghillie suit. My last one lasted me all year, never had to replace any of them. So again, for me, zip ties are your best friend. But anyway, zip tie all the netting on here. And before you do, you want to get a nice solid center base on here. And then you want to make sure that you have enough to drape over the back of your neck, like a cape or whatever you want to do. I would recommend doing more burlap on the back side towards the back of your neck, and then running the burlap here and there just in a random pattern on the top, and then mostly natural foliage. When you do the natural foliage on top, don't do a peacock feather, which I see some people do. They stick a piece of grass that's 10 feet tall and when you move around it kind of bobs up and down, kind of like a peacock feather. It gives you away, it just doesn't work. Make sure that you look like the surroundings you're crawling in. It's really, really important that you match your surroundings. Another thing too is on the front of the hat, I like to make like a window, but I want it to hide my face, but just enough to poke my scope through. So I'm going to probably drape burlap from here on this side and on this side and give myself just a tiny, tiny window just right here in the front. And the reason being is you lay my hat down on top of it, the scope is going to go right where my hand is going to be. It's going to drape over the top, and it's just going to keep your rifle hidden and your head hidden and make for a really cool ghillie suit. People ask me about what rifle I'm using in my videos. This is my Shadow Ops L96. I got a little, just kind of like a little mini dump pouch or just supply pouch here on the side. This is where I keep my spare magazines and my little speed loader. Sometimes I carry it, sometimes I don't. The speed loader could give you away because it kind of gives that rattling sound. It's kind of up to you, that's just my preference. Inside this L96 is a aftermarket spring and a Type R barrel. That is all that has been done to this rifle. And then I just have my optic here that I really love. I've had this scope ever since I started airsofting. And then on the front, if you can see, I've made a little bit of a bird nest with some camouflage netting. And to you snipers out there, make sure that you make what's called a bird, some people call it a bird's nest or whatever you want to call it, but make sure you break up your scope. Nothing in nature is solid black unless it's a grizzly bear or something like that. So just take a piece of netting, or sometimes people use it stamped steel, make a little circle through the scope like you would see in mesh goggles. And believe it or not, if you look through your scope, it looks like there's nothing there. It's clear as day. So that's what I recommend. But this is the rifle I use. It's shooting 500 FPS with 2s. Then if you put 2 5s in it, it drops it down to about 450. Then of course you get 3s. It drops it down to 370, 360 range. So it just depends on the wind and what field I'm playing at. But this is my Shadow Ops sniper rifle. And this is the gun that I prefer on the field. Here's some pictures of my ghillie suit when it's completed. Thank you for watching the video, and hope this helps. And as always, everyone have a good weekend of airsoft.